A beautiful woman named Lady Eleanor Lanchester walks through a crowd of people, and while they outwardly greet her, she can hear their inner voices filled with crude thoughts about her body and cruel judgments about her reputation as the bewitching princess. Eleanor recalls that she is actually a reincarnated person living as the Villainess from a game, a woman so beautiful she stood out more than the heroine and was known for stealing men's hearts. She remembers her past life and how she came to possess this special ability, with the first inner voice she ever heard belonging to her own mother. While her mother spoke kind words and called her cute, her mind was filled with curses and resentment because Eleanor was not born a boy. This painful experience taught her from a young age that a person's words and true feelings are often completely different. Over 16 years of hearing these hidden truths, she learned that humans are creatures with two faces. Because her parents never truly loved her and men only showed interest in her stunning looks, the original Eleanor grew up feeling utterly alone and began to play with the hearts of men. The reincarnated Eleanor understands this brokenness because her own heart feels just as shattered and unloved now, hearing her mother's internal thoughts about being embarrassed by her and only seeing her as a tool to seduce the prince. Standing in a grand ballroom filled with people, she feels her heart grow colder with each lie she hears, believing she can never fall in love and that living alone for the rest of her life might be her only option. She worries about her future, knowing she is the top candidate to become the first prince's fiancé, a future she is unsure of since she reincarnated before finishing the game. The king then makes an announcement, declaring that his son, Prince Asher, will choose his fiancée from among the ladies gathered that evening. As the crowd murmurs, Eleanor hears their thoughts confirming she is the most likely choice, a fact her own father had already told her. Suddenly, Prince Asher appears to address the guests, looking every bit the perfect, sparkling prince. He gives a polite speech thanking everyone for coming, but as he speaks, Eleanor is shocked to hear his inner voice, which sounds like an excited and nervous young boy giving himself a pep talk to do his best. The stark contrast between his flawless princely demeanor and his adorable inner monologue makes her wonder if she imagined it. As Eleanor tries to compose herself, her mother urges her to be ready for the first dance. Just then, Prince Asher walks directly to her and, with a graceful bow, asks for the honor of the first dance. Eleanor nervously accepts, and as he takes her hand, she hears his triumphant inner thought exclaiming how he said it without messing up and how his heart is pounding. They begin to dance, and while he moves with perfect grace and a flawless smile, his mind is racing with unfiltered thoughts. He thinks about how thin and fragile her hand feels, how tiny her waist is, and how incredibly cute she is, all while feeling overwhelmingly nervous. Eleanor is completely captivated by his inner monologue, realizing that for the first time in this life, she genuinely thinks a boy is cute. She is amazed that he can be thinking about so many things while dancing so perfectly. The dance feels strangely comfortable to her, a feeling she's never experienced before, and as it ends, the hall erupts in applause. After exchanging bows with the applauding crowd, Prince Asher turns to her with a smile and asks if she would like to take a stroll with him in the courtyard. They walk outside into the quiet, moonlit garden, and Eleanor thinks he is just like a prince from a fairy tale. As he comments on the beautiful moon, she hears him start to hum, and his inner voice joyfully thinks that he's composing a masterpiece song on the spot. She finds this incredibly endearing and is surprised by how much of a young boy he is on the inside, a complete secret from the world that sees him as a capable and serious prince. He notices her shiver and asks if she is cold, his mind worrying that her red cheeks mean she might be catching a cold. Embarrassed that his cute thoughts are making her blush, she quickly replies that she is just a bit nervous. Hearing this, the prince's inner voice also admits to being nervous while exclaiming again how cute she is. They sit together in a gazebo, and the silence makes the prince internally panic about what to talk about, as he desperately wants her to enjoy their time together. He tells her that it's an honor to walk with her, and his inner thoughts reveal his happiness, noting that she smiles so kindly, which is different from the rumors that she never smiles. He is genuinely glad to see her happy expression. The mention of her smile reminds Eleanor of her mother's cruel inner voice calling her smile ugly, causing her to tense up and retreat into herself. Just as she's lost in this dark memory, Prince Asher looks at her with a gentle and sincere smile, telling her how glad he was to spend time with her. At that very moment, a strange thing happens. She can't hear his inner voice at all. Instead of his thoughts, the only thing she can hear is the loud, frantic thumping of her own heart as she stares at him, completely flustered. At a grand ball, the beautiful Lady Eleanor stands alone holding a glass while Prince Asher approaches her with a kind smile. He apologizes for making her wait and thinks to himself how cute she looks as he asks if she is ready to go, marking 1 month since they first met. A large church is shown, symbolizing their official engagement which has recently taken place. Following the ceremony, Eleanor is seen looking completely exhausted, overwhelmed by the entire ordeal. During the event, onlookers whisper about her, with their harsh thoughts suggesting she is a wicked woman who leads men astray. They comment that her modest dress only makes her bewitching beauty stand out more, a curse she has grown accustomed to but still finds tiring. Later, Eleanor is in her room when a maid announces that Prince Asher has come to see her. Startled, Eleanor agrees, and Prince Asher enters with a warm expression, apologizing for bothering her while she is tired. Eleanor wonders why he came and asks if he needs something, while Asher explains he had something important to tell her. He gently takes her hand, telling her she looks beautiful before placing a soft kiss on it. He declares that today marks the beginning of their new adventure together, and it is his great honor to walk beside her, causing Eleanor to blush deeply. Eleanor thanks him, still flustered by his gesture, and contemplates the idea of marriage. She feels that Prince Asher is different from others, and though she doesn't understand love, she clutches her hands together, sensing a special connection with him. As Prince Asher speaks about painting a bright future together, Eleanor's thoughts drift to her secret. She possesses the ability to hear people's inner voices and wonders if she will have to keep this hidden from him from now on as well. She silently debates whether she should tell him her secret or keep it hidden, ultimately deciding she lacks the courage to reveal it right now. She hopes that perhaps someday she will be able to tell him. On another day, Eleanor is on her way to the royal palace in a carriage but decides to get out and walk the rest of the way. As she hurries along, a man stops her, expressing his gratitude for the chance to meet her while thinking about how beautiful she is, but Eleanor politely tries to excuse herself to see the prince. She is then approached by 2 more men who persistently invite her for a cup of tea. Eleanor can hear their thoughts. One envies the prince for being with her, another is content just to look at her, and the third sees her as a valuable prize, leaving her feeling cornered and stressed. Just then, Prince Asher appears, telling Eleanor that he was waiting for her as he glances at the men surrounding her. Relieved, Eleanor apologizes for being late, and Asher kindly asks if something happened. Asher quickly assesses the situation, realizing that her tardiness is because she is constantly being stopped by others. The men hastily make their excuses and flee, and Asher asks Eleanor if this happens often. While Eleanor thinks that Asher is the only one who truly sees her, he smiles and proposes that from now on he will come to the carriages to get her himself. Asher feels that he hasn't been paying enough attention and realizes how awful it must be for her to endure this all the time. Meanwhile, Eleanor recalls how her inability to turn people away led to false rumors about her being a flirtatious woman, but she finds comfort in knowing Prince Asher sees her true self, not the gossip. Prince Asher cheerfully announces that he will think of a countermeasure to solve this problem. Soon after, the main hallway Eleanor uses is marked with a large sign that reads, "Boys Band," leaving a group of men disappointed that their chance to see the healing bewitching princess has been taken away. Since becoming engaged, Eleanor has been attending more social events with Prince Asher. At one such gathering, women compliment her lovely appearance, and Asher asks if she is ready to continue their evening together. Eleanor reflects on her past, remembering how she avoided high society because the judgmental stares bothered her. Now, she forces herself to go out to establish her role as the prince's fiancée, wanting to become a source of strength for Asher and protect what is important to her, even though she is scared. During the party, Prince Asher is pulled away by 2 men for a conversation. He excuses himself from Eleanor, promising to find her in a bit, and she smiles, telling him she will wait in a nearby lounge. In the lounge, the other ladies decide to return to the dance hall, but Eleanor chooses to stay behind. She overhears their cruel inner voices calling her lewd and stuck-up, and the negativity makes it hard for her to breathe. Feeling pathetic for hiding again despite her resolve to be brave, Eleanor suddenly hears a man's voice. She recognizes it as Lord Edgar, a man who has been persistently trying to approach her, and she is terrified because men are not supposed to enter the ladies' lounge. Lord Edgar calls out for Eleanor, searching the room and telling her there is no point in hiding. His internal monologue reveals his possessive desire to make her his, while Eleanor hides behind a curtain, trembling with fear and wondering how she ended up in this situation. Tears well up in Eleanor's eyes as she despairs over her failure. She wanted to be strong but chose to be alone again to escape the hatred in the ballroom, and now she feels she hasn't changed at all. Suddenly, Lord Edgar rips the curtain open, triumphantly shouting that he has found her. A terrified Eleanor screams and tries to run away, but he gives chase, pleading for her to wait as she questions why this always happens to her. Lord Edgar catches Eleanor, causing her to fall to the floor as he looms over her. Trapped and helpless, she looks up at him with tears streaming down her face, wondering why she must endure such a horrifying experience. As the man moves closer, his sinister thoughts revealing his intent to force his love upon her, a voice from off-panel is heard shouting for Prince Asher. Lady Eleanor decides to head to the waiting room. She is suddenly stopped by Lord Edgar. He greets her with a sly smile and, noticing she is alone, suggests they go to the terrace together while Eleanor remembers how she always tried to avoid being cornered by him. With a charming smile and a finger pressed to her lips, Eleanor politely rejects his invitation. She confidently explains that she won't be alone for long as she is on her way to meet her fiancé, Prince Asher, in the waiting room. Lord Edgar's expression darkens at her words, and he then turns his attention to her two guards, using his status as a duke to request a favor so that he can get her alone. The scene shifts to an overturned chair, hinting at a struggle as Lord Edgar forcefully grabs Eleanor's arm. He threatens her by asking if she would want the prince to find them in such a compromising position, implying she seduced him. Eleanor desperately pleads with him to stop, momentarily terrified of how Prince Asher might perceive the situation, though she knows deep down he would never think such a thing of her. A series of panels flash through Eleanor's mind, showing her past struggles. She recalls a life where she felt unloved by the very people she wished to love her, forcing her to endure and work tirelessly. Over time, giving up became her new normal, and she resigned herself to a quiet life, never wishing to be a tragic heroine, until the day she finally met you, Prince Asher. Her thoughts snap back to the terrifying present, her heart pounding with the fear of losing the one person who brought light into her life. She believes that if even Prince Asher were to reject her now, her heart would simply break. Just as despair begins to set in, a commanding voice echoes through the hall, shouting for Edgar to not touch her. In a blur of motion, Prince Asher appears, his face a mask of cold fury as he launches a powerful and swift kick directly at Lord Edgar. Lord Edgar is sent flying across the room with a cry of pain, collapsing onto the floor in a heap. Eleanor watches in stunned silence while her two guards rush to her side, apologizing for having been ordered away and unable to protect her. With tears welling in her eyes, a blushing Eleanor tells Prince Asher that she is trying her best not to cry and asks if they can go somewhere else. Prince Asher, his expression now one of deep concern for her, turns to his guards and commands them to escort Duke Dudley out, coldly stating that this incident will mark the downfall of the Dudley dukedom. As the guards lead the disgraced duke away, they murmur their relief that they had the sense to alert the prince. After they move to a secure room, Eleanor feels a growing sense of unease as she realizes she can no longer hear Prince Asher's inner voice. The prince, attempting to hide his simmering rage for her sake, reassures her that everything is all right and that she shouldn't worry. A man with short blonde hair and glasses enters the room, introducing himself as Harry, Prince Asher's aide. Eleanor is startled as she immediately recognizes his inner voice, the one that always amusingly thinks, at banquets. She also recalls that he is the second son of the Connor Margate. Harry then advises the prince that they should leave before a commotion arises, and Asher agrees. Harry hands Prince Asher a file containing a detailed report on Duke Dudley's persistent stalking of Eleanor. She glances between Prince Asher, whose entire demeanor has shifted to one of cold seriousness, and Harry, who maintains a perfectly expressionless face despite his lively inner voice continuing to chant "Thum." Later, Eleanor and Prince Asher sit in a quiet room, a heavy silence hanging between them. She grows increasingly anxious, unable to hear his thoughts and wondering what he is thinking. When Asher finally speaks her name, she jumps, startled by the sound. Asher lets out a quiet sigh, his thoughts filled with self-reproach as he blames himself for her distress. He tells Eleanor that she is safe there and that he has already contacted her parents to let them know she will be staying in one of the guest rooms for the night. Internally, Prince Asher feels a pang of worry, questioning why Eleanor doesn't seem to depend on him, especially after such a traumatic event. He makes a silent vow to become a man she can truly rely on. Misinterpreting his silent concern as doubt, Eleanor reaches out and takes his hand, earnestly telling him that there is no way he could ever be seen as undependable. With tears in her eyes, Eleanor finally confesses her deepest fear, asking Prince Asher if he secretly believes she seduced Lord Edgar. She admits she is terrified of being hated by him, her voice trembling as she imagines him thinking of her as a lewd woman, a painful echo of past accusations shown in a small, sharp memory of a man recoiling from her. Prince Asher holds her hand gently, his expression soft as he reassures her that he thinks nothing of the sort. His own thoughts drift to the many men who have undoubtedly approached her before and how difficult it must have been for her to endure such cruel words. He looks at her with genuine warmth and says that he can only see her as a lovely and wonderful woman. He continues speaking, his voice full of sincerity, telling her that he has noticed her recent efforts to attend more social events and interact with people, and he is sure she is doing it all for his sake. He smiles and adds that he could never imagine her as the type of person to seduce anyone. Overwhelmed by his kindness and the fact that he noticed her small efforts, Eleanor covers her blushing face, feeling a wave of embarrassment and gratitude wash over her. Tears begin to stream down Eleanor's face, not of sadness, but of pure, unadulterated joy. It is the first time anyone has ever spoken to her with such innocent kindness and recognized her quiet struggles. She had believed she hadn't changed at all, but she now realizes that Prince Asher saw the small, brave step she had taken forward. Prince Asher watches her, his heart swelling with affection. He thinks to himself how wonderful it is to be the only one to witness this precious, vulnerable side of her, and it strengthens his resolve to work harder to protect her. He leans in and tells her she is very cute, then excuses himself to make further arrangements, leaving a flustered Eleanor to stare after him. As the day comes to a close, Harry departs from the room with his signature expressionless face, while his inner voice enthusiastically cheers, "Heaven." Eleanor watches him go, thinking to herself that Lord Harry is a very strange person indeed. She breathes a sigh of relief, believing the tumultuous day is finally over and she can return to her peaceful, everyday life. The following afternoon, maids bustle around Eleanor, expertly tying her hair into a chic ponytail. They shower her with compliments, exclaiming how cute she looks and how this new style gives her a different vibe for her upcoming meeting with Prince Asher. They assure her that any kind of makeup looks beautiful on her. The maids excitedly declare that His Highness is going to fall in love with her all over again. Eleanor, feeling a bit shy, asks if the new style truly suits her. She reflects on how the palace is filled with such kind people, making it a comfortable place to be, even if she still feels a little unused to all the attention. To clear her mind before her meeting, Eleanor takes a stroll through a stunningly beautiful palace garden. As she admires the flowers, she suddenly hears a new inner voice she doesn't recognize. The voice belongs to a man who appears to be an envoy from another country, and his thoughts reveal a dangerous plot involving extremists who support the second prince. Her blood runs cold as the voice's thoughts become terrifyingly clear, speaking of a plan for the assassination of the first prince, Asher. Panic grips Eleanor, and her mind races as she tries to calm herself down, desperately searching for the source of the voice to learn more about this horrifying plot. Determined to protect the person she holds most precious, Eleanor cautiously follows the voice around a garden hedge. At the same time, the man, having noticed her approaching, decides that he should at least offer a greeting to the prince's fiancée. Eleanor rounds the corner and comes face to face with a handsome young man with striking light-colored hair. He is identified as Siegfried, the fourth prince of the nation of Azebia. Siegfried leads Azebia, the fourth prince of a neighboring country who is known for handling all of its foreign diplomacy. In the world of a game Eleanor once played, he was a key character whose heart could be won, and his design on the game's title screen shows him affectionately holding the game's heroine. While studying, Eleanor is informed by her tutor that Lord Siegfried will be visiting their country to foster friendly relations between the two nations. Eleanor recognizes the name from her princess lessons and feels a sense of unease, realizing she is about to encounter one of the game's main characters much sooner than expected. Later, while walking in a garden with her guards, Eleanor feels anxious, hoping that no more trouble arises after the recent plot by extremists to assassinate the first prince, Asher. She worries that meeting a foreign prince now could complicate things further, but she knows she must avoid any troublesome situations. Siegfried approaches Eleanor, correctly identifying her as Prince Asher's fiancée. Although he speaks politely, his inner thoughts reveal a condescending attitude, believing women are easy to manipulate and that he can quickly charm her. Eleanor, who can hear his thoughts, is shocked by the stark difference between his charming exterior and his wicked internal monologue, which she visualizes as both a devilish and an angelic version of him. Siegfried continues to think that he has no real interest in Eleanor personally but sees her as a useful pawn for his country's political goals. Outwardly, he maintains a friendly demeanor, suggesting they will meet often and asking her to call him by his first name, while Eleanor formally introduces herself as Eleanor Lanchester. As they talk, Siegfried's thoughts turn dark, musing that things would be more convenient for him if Prince Asher were to die. Eleanor is terrified to hear this ominous thought and feels a tremor of fear, realizing she must find out what Siegfried knows about the assassination plot, but her immediate priority is Asher's safety. Eleanor's mind races as she tries to figure out when the assassins will make their move, calculating the soonest opportunity they would have to get close to Prince Asher. To confirm her suspicions, Eleanor asks Siegfried if he plans to attend the upcoming ball for foreign dignitaries. He confirms his attendance with a hint of boredom, and this confirms for Eleanor that the ball is indeed the day the assassination is set to happen. Eleanor reflects on how different this reality is from the game she remembers. In the game, a ball was a romantic event for dancing and raising affection with characters. In her current reality, however, the same event is a savage setting for a deadly assassination plot. She anxiously wonders how the assassins plan to carry out their plot, imagining scenarios where they might suddenly stab or poison Prince Asher at the crowded ball. Lost in her thoughts, she is startled when Siegfried notices her distraction and asks if something is on her mind. As their eyes meet, Siegfried is momentarily struck by her beauty, thinking to himself that she is prettier up close than he initially thought. Eleanor greets him, seemingly trying to get closer to him for her own purposes. Their conversation is interrupted by the arrival of Lord Harry, Prince Asher's aide, who has come to escort Eleanor to the prince. Siegfried watches them leave, exchanging polite goodbyes with Eleanor. Siegfried misinterprets Harry's arrival as a sign that Prince Asher is possessive and sent his aide to keep other men away from Eleanor. When he sees Eleanor blush, he smugly thinks to himself that women are so easy to read. In truth, Eleanor is blushing because she overheard Siegfried's thought about Asher treasuring her, and she quickly leaves in a fluster. To counter Siegfried's arrogant assumption, Eleanor loudly declares how excited she is to see Prince Asher. This unexpected reaction surprises Siegfried, whose confidence is shaken as he wonders if she genuinely prefers Asher over him. Eleanor silently affirms that while Siegfried is charming, her feelings are for Asher. Eleanor is overcome with a sudden, deep longing to see Prince Asher, realizing that all she truly wants is to be by his side. She follows Lord Harry into a grand room where he asks her to wait. Inside the room, Eleanor asks where the prince is, and Harry explains that Prince Asher sent him in a hurry after learning she was with Lord Siegfried. He leans in and whispers that it must be the prince's jealousy, causing Eleanor to blush deeply once again. Eleanor finds Harry's thoughts strange when he mentally refers to her as him. Just then, the door flies open and Prince Asher rushes in, looking tired but relieved to see her. Eleanor happily runs to greet him, glad to see him after his hard day of work. Prince Asher looks at Eleanor with worried eyes, his thoughts revealing his concern that she might have been swayed by Siegfried's charming appearance. He awkwardly asks about her morning walk as Eleanor continues to blush in his presence. Asher expresses his awareness that Siegfried is a shrewd person and thinks to himself that men are wolves, a thought that Eleanor overhears. Impressed by his insight despite not being able to hear inner voices, she agrees that she will be careful. The vivid image of Asher as a wolf flashes through Eleanor's mind, causing her to yelp in surprise and blush even more furiously. Asher is confused by her sudden reaction, wondering if her red face is because of Siegfried. Flustered, Eleanor covers up her embarrassment by claiming she's just incredibly happy to see him, which in turn makes Asher blush. Eleanor is mortified by her own behavior and apologizes, while Asher is still trying to understand the situation. Nearby, Lord Harry simply lets out a weary sigh at the couple's awkward but endearing interaction. Prince Asher, trying to hide his own blush, softly tells Eleanor that he is also happy to see her. Seeing his genuine smile, Eleanor feels a powerful resolve, realizing she doesn't want that precious smile to ever be taken away. Asher gently takes her hand and asks if something is wrong. Eleanor looks at him with determination and replies that it's nothing, silently vowing that she will protect him at all costs. In her bedroom, a maid informs Lady Eleanor that a letter from Prince Asher has arrived, and Eleanor reflects on how their relationship has grown closer since they first met. As she reads the letter, in which Asher looks forward to seeing her at the next ball, her expression turns grim while she remembers this is the prophesied day for his assassination. Eleanor resolves to gather information at the event, knowing the fateful day is fast approaching and she must do what she can to help. At a bustling social gathering, Eleanor scans the crowd for any clues, big or small, to help avert the coming tragedy. She focuses on a group of men and overhears one of them internally questioning why Prince Asher is the first prince, which immediately catches her attention. Nearby, Prince Asher suggests to Eleanor that they should go and greet the man whose voice she just heard, and she agrees to accompany him. The man, identified as Count Lauron, greets them politely, and Eleanor recognizes him as the source of the resentful inner voice from before. While they engage in small talk about the upcoming ball, Eleanor listens to Count Lawrence's inner thoughts, which seethe with resentment and declare that the second prince, Robert, should be king, confirming her suspicion that he is one of the extremists. Eleanor continues to listen as Count Lawrence's internal monologue reveals his excitement for the chaos and screams that will fill the hall, confident that his plan is perfect. She realizes he intends to have someone else, like a steward or an underling, carry out the assassination so he can keep his own hands clean. He thinks to himself that the second prince will surely praise them when the plan succeeds, but Eleanor notices the uncertainty in his wording, which makes a nagging feeling of doubt bubble up in her mind. She continues to gather more information, later sitting outside with Prince Asher in a gazebo. While they chat pleasantly, Eleanor brings up the fact that the second prince, Robert, will also be attending the ball, which causes her to feel uneasy about the assassination plot. It occurs to her that perhaps the plot isn't being carried out with Prince Robert's full knowledge, and it feels like only a few extremists are truly excited about it. Prince Asher confirms his younger brother Rob will be there, and Eleanor sees Prince Robert for the first time, a young boy peeking from a balcony window. Eleanor notes the strong family resemblance between the two brothers and recalls that in the game, Prince Robert was a very popular character. As they are talking, Prince Asher's attendant informs him that Prince Robert has delayed his lessons and is likely on his way to see them, which causes Asher to look annoyed. Just then, Prince Robert comes running towards them with a cheerful shout for his big brother. The young prince runs with open arms, declaring how much he wanted to meet his sister-in-law, Lady Eleanor, clearly intending to give her a hug. Before he can reach her, however, Prince Asher steps in and intercepts his little brother, catching him in a tight hug of his own. Asher internally laughs, knowing his brother's obvious plan was to hug Lady Eleanor, while Robert grumbles internally about being found out. Eleanor watches the two brothers, thinking they are cute and get along well, while Prince Asher internally panics that Eleanor might run away if his brother gets too close. Eleanor then has a pleasant conversation with Prince Robert, who happily expresses his joy at spending time with his big sis Eleanor. Prince Robert asks if he can call her sister-in-law since she will be marrying his brother, and Eleanor happily agrees. Prince Asher watches them, thinking to himself that with Lady Eleanor, he feels they will have a truly happy marriage. Eleanor asks Prince Robert if he is also going to the next ball, and he sips his drink, remarking on her nice mood with a hint of jealousy. He cheerfully confirms he will be there and looks forward to it, but then his expression darkens for a split second, a change Eleanor catches with a gasp. Eleanor is stunned, wondering what just happened as Prince Robert's inner voice reveals a plan to do a clean sweep with his brother at the ball, a hassle he is not looking forward to. Overhearing their internal conversation, Eleanor realizes that Prince Asher and Prince Robert are fully aware of the plot and are planning to use it to get rid of the extremists. The plan involves Prince Asher being served poison at the ball, a necessary step to expose the culprits. Eleanor is shocked, understanding that they wish to stop the extremists from causing future trouble, and Prince Robert internally complains about them supporting him without his consent. She is stunned to realize that both brothers knew everything all along, and Prince Asher never once let his inner voice betray the secret, maintaining a calm exterior despite knowing about the assassination attempt. A wave of sadness washes over Eleanor as she realizes how little she truly knew about Prince Asher, despite being able to hear his inner voice. She remembers a time he looked sad when he felt he couldn't be relied upon, and she feels a deep sense of powerlessness. As she stands there, overwhelmed by her own uselessness and on the verge of tears, Lord Harry walks by, his mind as always on her impressive figure. Later, as she prepares for the ball, Eleanor looks at the beautiful dress Prince Asher gifted her, remembering the happy look on his face when he gave it to her. She knows Prince Asher can handle the situation, but the thought of him willingly being served poison is terrifying because he doesn't seem to treasure his own life enough. Determined to find something she can do to help, Eleanor finishes getting ready and meets Prince Asher, apologizing for making him wait. He reassures her that it was no problem at all and compliments her, saying the dress really suits her, which makes her blush. With renewed determination, she agrees they should go, ready to face whatever awaits them at the ball. Upon arriving, the sheer number of guests and the constant barrage of inner voices make Eleanor feel sick and nervous, especially knowing an assassin is somewhere in the crowd. Prince Asher, sensing her distress, takes her hand to reassure her that everything will be okay. While greeting guests and dancing, Eleanor remains vigilant, focusing on the inner voices around her. Viscount Gildo approaches them with a flattering demeanor, but his inner thoughts are full of contempt, gloating that the cocky first prince will be knocked from his position today. Prince Asher suddenly excuses himself to go greet someone, leaving Eleanor in the care of his aide, Harry, and internally worrying about leaving her alone. Eleanor watches him go and sees him approach Count Lauron, whose inner voice exclaims that the target has finally arrived, and she notices a server carrying a tray of wine nearby. The server approaches Prince Asher, and Eleanor's blood runs cold as Count Lauron's inner voice urges the server to hurry up and have the prince drink the poisoned wine. As the server offers the drink, Eleanor watches in horror, desperately wondering what Prince Asher is planning to do. To her absolute shock, Prince Asher accepts the glass of wine, smiling politely as if he doesn't realize there is poison in it, while Harry looks on in surprise. Though she knows Prince Asher might have a plan, the desire for him to live and be with her overwhelms all other thoughts. The fear that Prince Asher might die is too much to bear, and before she can stop herself, she pushes through the crowd. Without a second thought, she acts on pure instinct as Prince Asher raises the glass to his lips, leaving everyone, especially herself, shocked at what happens next. A grand party? Prince Asher calmly lifts a glass to his lips, taking a drink as Lady Eleanor watches from a distance with a look of sheer panic. He finishes the drink in one go, noting internally that while he has always despised the flavor of poison, this particular one tasted surprisingly delicious as he subtly glances in a specific direction. A flashback reveals a younger Asher enduring painful poison training, coughing as his father insisted he must get used to it to save his own life. In the present, Asher understands the true purpose behind that harsh training, realizing that the threat against his life was very real and his father was preparing him for this exact moment. His thoughts then shift to Lady Eleanor, and he recognizes a familiar look in her eyes, the same look of someone who had given up on trusting others, a reflection of his own past self. This realization causes him to look at her with a newfound admiration, his expression softening as he calls her name with a sparkle in his eyes. Eleanor is taken aback by his radiant appearance, feeling an overwhelming and unfamiliar mix of emotions bursting within her, making her heart ache as if it were crying out. Noticing her distress, Prince Asher steps closer and asks her what is wrong. Meanwhile, hidden amongst the guests, Count Lauron expresses his frustration that his assassination attempt failed and that Prince Asher didn't die. Realizing he has likely been discovered, he begins to plan his escape from the party before he can be caught. Eleanor, wanting to prevent the culprit from getting away amidst the confusion, excuses herself from Prince Asher under the pretense of fixing her makeup, determined to do something only she can do to help. Observing the interaction is Lord Siegfried, who recalls seeing Lady Eleanor with Prince Asher earlier and notes how different her demeanor was with the prince compared to when she spoke with him. He concludes that the assassination plot has been uncovered, and now all that remains is to capture the masterminds behind it. Siegfried finds himself inexplicably drawn to Eleanor, a woman he had initially dismissed, as her image now occupies his thoughts. Trying to compose himself, Siegfried decides to get a drink, but just as a servant approaches with a tray, he sees Lady Eleanor again, trying to convince himself that she is just an ordinary woman. However, he is immediately captivated by her stunning smile, a memory flashing in his mind of a previous encounter where she had reassured him with that very same expression. He acknowledges that while her smile is beautiful enough to make anyone feel special, the one she reserves for Prince Asher is on a completely different level. Overwhelmed by these conflicting emotions, Siegfried retreats and slams a door in frustration before watching Eleanor head towards the powder room alone. Inside the powder room, Eleanor breathes a sigh of relief, glad her plan worked. She reflects on her past, remembering how she was instructed to use her beauty to please others, an aspect of her life she had always hated but which proved useful tonight. An intense and unfamiliar emotion washes over her as she clutches her dress. Having always suppressed her feelings to avoid pain, this new sensation is overwhelming. Tears stream down her face as she finally identifies the feeling as immense relief, realizing she is so glad because her precious person, Prince Asher, is alive and safe. Back at the party, as Count Lauron is being escorted away by guards, Siegfried approaches Eleanor and compliments her, asking for a dance. She notices his face is flushed and his hand is warm and unsteady, leading her to a shocking conclusion. He must have accidentally consumed some of the poison drink. Concerned, she moves closer to check if he has a fever, but he suddenly grabs her hand, his grip tight. Siegfried pulls a surprised Eleanor onto the dance floor, just as Prince Asher appears with a stern expression, interrupting them by calling out her name. Eleanor's face lights up with a brilliant smile upon seeing Asher, happy that he came to get her, a reaction that catches Siegfried off guard. Siegfried attempts to insist on his dance, But Asher cleverly intervenes, suggesting Lady Eleanor is tired and that perhaps they can dance next time, smoothly guiding her away. Once they are alone in the quiet garden, Prince Asher gently cups Eleanor's face, his own expression soft and blushing. He quietly asks her why she was smiling at Prince Siegfried in that way. Leaning in so closely that their lips almost touch, he whispers that she cannot show such a smile to everyone, as it might attract the wrong kind of attention, causing Eleanor's heart to beat uncontrollably. Flustered, she almost asks him about the poison but stops herself just in time, remembering she is not supposed to know about the assassination attempt. Instead, she expresses her general worry for his well-being, which touches Asher, who thanks her for her kindness and concern. In a dark forest, a mysterious cloaked figure complains about the current events being annoying and getting in the way of the heroine's story. This figure, a smiling girl, then identifies the obstacle, the Villainess, as none other than Eleanor. In a grand chamber overlooking the castle, a maid gently wakes Lady Eleanor, wishing her a good morning. Eleanor sits up in her bed and replies that she slept well thanks to everyone's care, feeling safe now that the extremists from the assassination attempt have been dealt with. Later, while her maids attend to her, one asks if she has settled into palace life and her princess lessons. Eleanor admits she's sad to be away from home but quickly adds that life in the palace is very enjoyable, masking the memory of her parents' cold farewell where they expressed relief at her departure. With bright smiles, the maids enthusiastically prepare Eleanor for the day, promising it will be a good one. Once she is dressed in a lovely gown, she looks at her reflection and wonders if her appearance is enough, while her maids shower her with compliments, calling her super cute and the best in the world. It is a special day as she has a date in town with Prince Asher, who soon arrives looking charmingly different with his hair worn down. He warmly greets Lady Eleanor, expressing his excitement for their day together, much to the delight of one of her maids who finds his casual look irresistibly cute. As they prepare to leave, Eleanor notices Lord Harry's absence, and Asher explains that his aide is buried in work at the palace. The couple then ventures into the bustling town, and Eleanor is captivated by the lively market filled with cheerful people, a sight that warms her heart. Asher smiles, remarking that the vibrant crowd is a sign of the kingdom's peace, and Eleanor feels a deep sense of happiness being there with him. Eleanor marvels at the energetic atmosphere, which is so different from the formal palace balls. Asher gently takes her hand, reminding her to stay close despite having guards nearby, and she happily agrees while her maids watch over them from a distance, determined to protect her. Their walk is momentarily interrupted when they witness a mother finding her lost child, her relief mixed with a warning about recent kidnappings, an exchange that leaves Eleanor looking thoughtful. Asher then points to a general store, suggesting they look for matching items as lovers in the town often do. Eleanor's eyes light up with joy, and she eagerly agrees, excited to share this experience with the prince. Admiring a new ring on her finger, Eleanor feels a blush creep up her cheeks as she thinks about wanting a visible sign of their engagement, feeling a little greedy since just being by his side used to be enough. Suddenly, Asher notices a flash of light, and Eleanor turns in alarm just as a cloaked figure appears. Recognizing danger, she instinctively shoves the prince aside, yelling for him to watch out. The commotion reveals a young girl with pigtails who has fallen to the ground, a girl Eleanor shockingly recognizes as the potential heroine from the world of the game she remembers. As the royal guards rush to secure the area, Asher pulls Eleanor close, telling her not to move away from him. A cloaked figure dashes past them, and Eleanor notices the fallen girl is injured, but the attacker's true target is revealed in the next moment. Someone grabs Eleanor from behind, muffling her screams and bidding farewell to Miss Villainess, before dragging her away into the darkness, leaving her to question if this unexpected event was part of the game's original story. Prince Asher cries out her name, paralyzed and unable to move, as Eleanor loses consciousness, her last thought being of him. Eleanor awakens on the cold floor of a cell, disoriented and in pain. She overhears someone remarking that she is also a slave, a word that shocks her to her core. Looking around her prison, she sees a group of beastmen children locked in another cell, their cat-like ears and tails a clear sign of who they are. She vaguely remembers them as her character's servants from the game but is unsure if they are allies now. Her attempt to open her cell door fails, and she overhears her captors outside, mockingly talking about a cruel order to put her in the beastman's cage, expecting the bloodthirsty children to kill her. This revelation fills Eleanor with terror. Inside their cell, the beastmen children dismiss the captor's words, scoffing that they are not savage animals who would do such a thing. Eleanor notices the slave collars around their necks and connects their plight to the recent kidnapping she heard about in town, realizing they are victims just like her. She approaches their cell, asking if they are okay, but they react with hostility and despair, telling her to leave them alone, their eyes conveying a sense of hopelessness. Unwilling to give up, Eleanor reaches through the bars, takes one of the children's hands, and declares that they should all escape together, her resolve firm as she knows she is no longer the same person she once was. Eleanor looked toward the 3 beastmen boys who were imprisoned with her and proposed that they should all get out together, which left the 2 older boys looking very surprised. The tallest boy reacted with intense anger and suspicion, baring his teeth as he shouted that they could never trust a human, while another boy commented that even though she was pretty, they couldn't trust her because she would definitely betray them. Eleanor earnestly offered herself to be used for their escape and told them they could forget about her and run away once they were free, which made the boy who had distrusted her look on silently. She continued her plea, explaining that if they truly wanted to get out, she could be very useful to them all as they stood together near the prison bars. The beastmen boys quietly considered her offer, wondering if they should use her until they get out, while Eleanor stood with a determined look on her face, thinking she didn't want to be there anymore. With her back to them, she began scratching on the wall, showing them a path the guards take and explaining where the guards were at that moment, deciding to do what she could to help. After seeing her plan, the beastmen boys agreed to cooperate and escape together, and Eleanor smiled, saying she understood. She then laid out her strategy, explaining that she would lure the guard into the room and wanted them to knock him out. The tallest boy noted that it sounded simple, adding that the collars they were wearing were the only things binding them, as these collars wouldn't hurt them if Eleanor wasn't nearby. The 3 beastmen boys looked absolutely horrified and blushed at the implication of her plan. Eleanor pleaded with them, assuring them that they wouldn't get hurt and that this was the only method they had right now, while one of the other boys expressed his worry for her safety. One of the boys turned to Eleanor and asked how she managed to investigate the exits and create the map. Eleanor smiled brightly and put her hands together, explaining that it was thanks to her magic power. The boys looked at her skeptically as she admitted it was a lame explanation. The tallest boy then asked for her name after she smiled at him. She introduced herself as Eleanor and asked for their names in return, leading the tallest boy, Riku, to introduce himself, followed by the boy beside him, Kai, and the smallest one, Kuu, who smiled cheerfully. Eleanor smiled and happily addressed Riku, Kai, and Kuu, declaring that they would carry out the plan that night. Together, the 4 of them raised their arms in unison, filled with determination as they vowed to make it out of there. Meanwhile, a tired guard approached the cell, complaining about being the only one on duty and wondering if the cutie, referring to Eleanor, had been eaten by the beastmen yet, calling it a waste. The guard was startled when he heard a girl's voice coming from the cell, wondering if it was the girl they had caught. The voice, belonging to Eleanor, spoke seductively, claiming that the beastmen children weren't enough to satisfy her. He then heard her ask for a big, strong man to come to her. The guard became flustered as Eleanor invited him to open the door and have some fun with her. When he cautiously asked what she had done with the beastmen children, she simply told him to come and see for himself. The guard, now blushing and sweating, thought about how he was the only one there and decided he would just take a little peek inside the cell. Inside, Eleanor was sitting with her dress suggestively lowered, holding the hands of the 2 beastmen boys next to her as she looked at the guard with a sultry expression. The guard stared with a wide, shocked eye, completely mesmerized by the sight. With a captivating gaze, Eleanor looked directly at him and asked if he would satisfy her. Overwhelmed by a sensation that felt like he was being swallowed up, the guard eagerly agreed, saying of course the beastmen kids couldn't satisfy her as he rushed to unlock and open the cell door. Just as the guard stepped inside with a grin, Riku lunged at him from the side with a menacing look and bit his neck to incapacitate him. Eleanor watched from her seated position, thinking with a racing heart that he had done it and that women could be scary. Riku, after taking down the guard, tossed the cell keys over to her. One of the boys announced that the guard had the keys, while another was already tying up the unconscious man, urging everyone to hurry up and get out. Eleanor, looking a bit shaken, thanked them and agreed they should leave. As they walked away from the unconscious guard, Eleanor stepped on a puddle of his blood, and a wave of hatred flooded her mind as Riku looked back at her with concern. Eleanor clutched her head in pain as memories that weren't hers flooded her mind, memories full of hatred for the country from the man whose blood she touched. One of the beastmen boys noticed her distress and asked if she was okay, but she was overwhelmed by the sudden influx of the man's voice and memories. She thought about how the man, Noah, the dragon prince of a ruined country, was a secret love interest that the villainous Eleanor was supposed to have kept underground, and she couldn't believe she had run into him in a place like this. Eleanor apologized to the concerned boys and told them to go on ahead because there was another person she wanted to save. Riku looked at her, and she firmly stated that they should go together instead. The boys smiled and insisted they couldn't leave her behind, with one adding that going together is better than going alone. Eleanor gratefully thanked them, and as they arrived at another cell door, she sensed that the person she was looking for was there. Inside the cell, a man with long dark hair, Noah, stood up and demanded to know who they were. Eleanor noticed that his immense hatred was making it difficult for her to hear his inner voice. Eleanor apologized for the sudden intrusion and explained that they were breaking out, inviting him to come with them. Noah laughed mockingly, doubting that a woman and 3 children could escape. He then menacingly showed them the collar on his neck, explaining that it would electrocute him if he ran away and didn't get it off in 3 days, meaning death was the only thing waiting for escapees. Eleanor countered, thinking that if it's a device like that, it should be possible to remove it using the Duke's power, and she told him they would definitely find a way. Noah, hearing her resolve, thought about how nothing would change if he didn't act and that being tortured again was the worst that could happen if they failed, so he agreed to go with them. As Eleanor unlocked his cell, she heard his inner voice, which was gentle and completely different from his outward harshness, thinking about how he wanted to see her. She realized it was Lady Eleanor he was thinking of, and they all decided to go together. Eleanor, thinking about how she wanted to hurry back to his side, looked back with a determined smile and said, "Let's go." She opened the final door leading outside, and the group walked through a messy corridor before finally emerging into a foggy forest. The group stood at the edge of the forest, having finally made it out, and the Beastmen boys expressed their disbelief and excitement. Noah, however, turned to Eleanor and pointed out the thick fog, asking what they should do now since it seemed she didn't have a plan. Eleanor began to search, confident that she would be able to find what she was looking for, as she wanted to hear his voice right away. As she focused, she suddenly heard the voices of guards shouting, realizing they were looking for Lady Eleanor. The guards discovered them, and Noah urged everyone to run, telling Eleanor to save her tears for later as he pulled her along. He looked back at her and told her to come with him this way. As they ran from the guards, Eleanor realized she had no stamina, and Noah warned her that if the guards, who were armed with swords, caught up to them, it would be over. He noted that they were going to be caught soon, even though they just needed to go a little further. He then surprised her by suddenly scooping her up into his arms to carry her. As Noah carried Eleanor and ran with the Beastmen children, the guards behind them shouted to at least catch the woman. One of the Beastmen boys worried he was being left behind as Noah realized he couldn't outpace a horse. Suddenly, a dark figure on a horse swooped in from the side, startling Eleanor as she was whisked away from Noah's arms. As Eleanor braces for the worst, she feels a man's grip on her arm, convinced she is about to be killed by another man approaching from behind with a weapon. Suddenly, the man holding her, Noah, swiftly turns and positions himself as a shield, taking the brunt of the attack that was meant for her. Eleanor looks on in shock as she realizes Noah intentionally repositioned her to protect her from harm, a selfless act that saved her life. She is overcome with relief, having thought for a moment she was going to die. Meanwhile, Prince Asher arrives on the scene, his expression filled with intense fury as he shouts Eleanor's name. Asher rushes forward with determination while Noah, who is holding the shaken Eleanor, recognizes him as Asher of the Salon Kingdom. Eleanor also calls out to Prince Asher, and he quickly reaches them, grabbing her arm to pull her to safety. He immediately pulls her into a tight, protective embrace, and Eleanor looks up at him with wide, tear-filled eyes, overwhelmed by the moment. With Eleanor held securely in his arms, Asher expresses his profound relief that she is okay and gently kisses her forehead. Crying with gratitude, Eleanor thanks him for coming to such a dangerous place to save her. Asher then lifts her onto a horse, settling in behind her and wrapping his arms around her warmth as he instructs a man named Harry to handle the remaining situation. Eleanor feels a sense of joy hearing even Harry's excited inner voice as he rallies the others to depart. Harry takes command, ordering his men to ensure the safety of the wounded Noah and the Beastmen children, promising to sort out the details later. Back at the castle, Asher reassures Eleanor that she is finally safe and can now rest, and she leans against him, accepting his comfort. She awakens much later in a grand bedchamber, surrounded by concerned maids who are overjoyed to see her awake. They inform her that she has slept for nearly an entire day and that everyone, including her parents and Prince Asher, is ecstatic that she is safe. Soon after, Eleanor's parents arrive, feigning concern about her well-being. However, Eleanor can hear their true thoughts, which are solely focused on how the kidnapping might jeopardize her engagement to the prince and damage their family's reputation. Her mother then casts a disdainful glance at the beastmen children standing quietly nearby, who instinctively sense her unpleasant nature. As her parents depart, her father sternly reminds her to speak with the prince, his mind fixated on securing the engagement, while their inner voices criticize Eleanor for the trouble she has caused. Despite the deep hurt caused by her parents' coldness, Eleanor forces a polite smile until they are gone, reflecting on how she had foolishly hoped for their genuine concern after 16 years. She realizes it was always their draining inner voices that wore her out, and it was her engagement to Prince Asher that finally gave her an escape to the palace. Just then, Asher's gentle voice asks if she is all right, bringing her back to the present and making her feel as though she has finally come to her senses. The kind beastmen children comment that it was nice her parents came, though their inner voices betray their true feelings about their character. Eleanor thanks them for worrying and asks them to wait in the room while she goes to speak with the prince, touched by their cuteness. She finds Prince Asher in his study and runs to him, overcome with happiness and eager to thank him properly for saving her. Asher catches her in another warm hug, apologizing for the terrifying ordeal she endured. With tears of relief, Eleanor assures him it is okay, because she never lost faith that he would come for her. Asher's inner thoughts reveal his fury over the incident, and he asks her to explain everything that happened. Eleanor recounts the events, explaining her suspicions about the woman involved, whom the bandits and children referred to as the lady, and how her intuition told her this woman was different from the game's original heroine. Asher concludes that a larger organization must be at play, requiring a deeper investigation. When Eleanor asks about Noah, the man who protected her, Harry explains that Noah became violent when they tried to secure him. Asher then reveals that Noah has been placed in the dungeon, though he quickly assures her it is a comfortable and safe place. Eleanor feels conflicted, understanding Asher's actions but still viewing Noah as a victim to whom she owes a great debt. She impulsively suggests her family could take him in, but Asher immediately and vehemently rejects the idea, his inner voice betraying intense jealousy at the thought. Instead, Asher proposes that his respected aunt, Madame Michelina, could care for Noah. Eleanor agrees, adding that because Madame Michelina is from a nation friendly with the dragon country, she would surely understand Noah. She instantly regrets her slip of the tongue, fearing Asher will question how she knew Noah's origin. Asher is indeed surprised and internally wonders how she knew, but his inner voice simply remarks on her attentiveness. He gently pats her head, agreeing it's a good idea and promising to update her. Feeling emboldened by his kindness, Eleanor asks if she might be allowed to thank Noah in person. After a moment of internal conflict, Asher smiles and agrees, much to Eleanor's delight. As she beams, Asher's inner voice expresses how happy he is to see her smiling again, and Eleanor finds his voice incredibly comforting, feeling that his presence makes the chaos of the past few days fade away. A black-haired man named Noah stands in a grand room when Lady Michelina approaches him to say that Prince Asher and Lady Eleanor have arrived to see him. As they walk through a lavish hall, Noah reflects that it has been a week since he came to this place. Noah recalls the day he was moved from a prison to Lady Michelina's estate, where she told him he could spend his time however he wished and should rest, granting him freedom even after he had rampaged. A flashback reveals the source of his anger, as he remembers his country being destroyed and his friends and people being taken from him. Fueled by hatred, he vowed to destroy the Salon Kingdom and a particular girl with pigtails whom he believed was responsible for his suffering. The memory continues with Prince Asher calmly trying to talk him down, and in the present, Noah wonders if this kind man is truly the one he should hate. From a balcony, he looks down and asks Lady Michelina why she wished to speak with him. Noah is then shown looking at a document in shock, as it declares that the Salon Kingdom is innocent, leaving him completely bewildered about who his real enemy is. Later, Noah meets Lady Eleanor for the first time and is struck by her dignified presence. Eleanor expresses her gratitude for his help, but Noah feels he should be the one thanking her, especially since she was the one who removed the collar he was forced to wear. Eleanor kindly asks if he is still hurting anywhere, and he reassures her that he is fine. He is deeply moved by her genuine concern, finding himself captivated by her straightforward and caring eyes, realizing it has been a long time since anyone worried about him so earnestly. Prince Asher joins them and promises that they will help Noah with whatever they can, urging him to prioritize his own well-being first. Noah appreciates their kindness and watches them together, thinking they make a lovely couple, which brings a sudden pang of pain as he clutches his chest, reminded of a past sorrow. The scene shifts to a girl with pigtails named Chelsea, who confidently declares that the world is centered around her and everything will go according to her plan. She explains that the dragon country had to collapse for Noah to become a potential love interest, and she is ensuring the world follows the script. Chelsea complains to her companion that things aren't going smoothly, revealing she had to frame the Salon Kingdom to cause the dragon country's collapse. She is also frustrated that Noah is not behaving as expected and that the villainous Eleanor is not fulfilling her role in this plundering game. She recalls a plan to capture the villainess and bring all the love interests together at once. A flashback shows her getting injured while protecting someone, a calculated move that granted her access to the palace and her targets, making her excited to finally set her plans in motion. In her room, Chelsea grows increasingly impatient with the game's slow progress. When a maid asks where she is going, Chelsea angrily tells her not to ask questions, thinking about how her father was only interested in profiting from dragons while she has much grander ambitions. Chelsea daydreams about her future, imagining a date with Prince Asher and successfully gathering all the other male characters into her harem. She feels confident that her knowledge of the story will make everything easy as she plots to save the prince from the villainous Eleanor. Meanwhile, Prince Asher nervously presents a gift box to Eleanor, telling her he has something he wants to give her. He opens the box to reveal a stunning necklace, and Eleanor is overcome with joy, exclaiming how pretty it is. Asher smiles and gently helps her put it on. Seeing how happy she is, Asher is pleased and takes her hand, suggesting they take a walk in the garden to see the roses, mentioning a new variety that has recently bloomed. Eleanor is filled with happiness as she reflects on how thoughtful Asher is, always trying to create special memories with her. She then overhears his inner thought about wanting to name the new rose variety Eleanor, but hesitating out of fear that she might find it creepy. The pleasant time with Asher makes Eleanor feel greedy for more, and she finds it hard to let go of his hand. As they are about to begin their walk, she hears a commotion growing louder and closer. Suddenly, Chelsea appears in the garden, cheerfully calling out to Prince Asher. Eleanor and Asher are both startled and confused by her unexpected arrival. Chelsea greets them with a smile and casually refers to Eleanor as Asher's friend, which shocks Eleanor. Internally, Chelsea smirks, thinking that she will now take all of Eleanor's men for herself. Eleanor has a startling realization that the heroine, Chelsea, has also been reincarnated into this world and seems to know more about this plundering game than she does. A horrifying vision flashes through Eleanor's mind of Prince Asher happily embracing Chelsea. She clenches her fist tightly, filled with a sense of dread and denial. In a bold move, Eleanor steps forward, takes Prince Asher's arm, and firmly declares to Chelsea that she is his fiancée, surprising them both. Eleanor clings to Asher, who looks down at her with a mix of surprise and delight, while Chelsea scowls at the display. Eleanor feels a rush of happiness from her own bold action. Chelsea then asks if she can join their walk, secretly planning to drive Eleanor away. However, Prince Asher politely refuses, explaining that he wishes to treasure this time alone with his fiancée, which clearly irritates Chelsea. Putting on a tearful act, Chelsea claims she has no female friends and just wants to get along, all while plotting to become Asher's number one. Eleanor sees through the act but decides it's best to play along for now so she can investigate what Chelsea is truly hiding. Eleanor finds herself pouting internally like a small child at the thought of having to tolerate Chelsea, but she steels her resolve, knowing she must endure it. Their tense moment is interrupted by the arrival of Lord Harry, who informs Eleanor that the doctor is ready to check on her wound. Chelsea is visibly annoyed by the interruption. As Harry leads Eleanor away, Chelsea cheerfully suggests she be included next time. As they depart, Harry refers to Chelsea by the nickname Cliff, leaving Eleanor to wonder about its meaning as she follows him. Eleanor realizes she must speak with Asher and warn him not to get too close to Lady Chelsea. She is certain that Chelsea will become more involved from now on and is determined to stop her plundering at all costs. She contemplates revealing her ability to hear people's inner voices to Asher, thinking it could be a way to guard against Chelsea's plans. However, she hesitates, fearing that he would reject her if he knew she had been listening to his private thoughts all this time. The scene flashes to Chelsea, who is fuming over the happy atmosphere between Asher and Eleanor. She declares that as the heroine of this world, she will not forgive the villainess for finding happiness. Chelsea reassures herself that there are other characters to pursue besides Prince Asher, but she cannot stand to see the villainess happy. Believing it is her right to have everything, she begins to plot how she can punish Eleanor. A wicked smile spreads across Chelsea's face as she anticipates the fun she will have by punishing Eleanor, confident that this will make everything go her way.